Hello, everyone. Hello from Brazil. This is our Spiritist psychology study group, and I'd like to hand it over to Anahy, who will be talking to us about dreams tonight. Over to you, Anahy.
Thank you, Fabrizio. Hello, everyone. So I think I'll start sharing my screen first. I'm disabled. I think you have to. I'm disabled. You have to make it possible for me,
Yeah,
Fabrizio.
I have already done that now. It looks to me as you are able now. Does it show unable to you?
Host disabled. Participant screen sharing.
Okay, let me just try one thing here. Right now.
Okay. So
There we are.
is that okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
there, perfect.
So everybody, this is Dreams Part 2. So in the previous meeting, Lionel and I talked about a little bit about Freud and what especially Freud and especially Jung talked about dreams and symbols, and that dreams are the cornerstone of Jung's psychology. But today, then, I will bring to you what we have in the Spiritist knowledge a little bit, because it's a lot of things, but we can all go in the books and read some more, and then we will have our discussion later on, okay? So this is from the Spirit's book, and I would love if everyone could take the time to read with me and make the connections. And people that are here today present in the class, in the meeting, if you can write down, the ideas that you have during this meeting, and not only questions, but especially ideas and connections among everything that we have discussed. It would be great. Okay. So in the Spirit's book, chapter 8, they talk about emancipation of the soul to Allan Kardec. So I think everybody knows, but I'm going to talk again to anyone that is listening this class later on, that the Spirit's book was actually written by Allan Kardec in 1857. And it's the first of a series of 5 books by Allan Kardec that are known as the Spiritist codification. And Allan Kardec uses actually the scientific method. Okay, we can talk later about that. But he asks questions to different mediums around Europe, and he analyzes. He was a scientist and a teacher, a professor with many books written. And so he analyzes the answers to see the common and logical, the most common and logical answers. Okay. So this is the analytical method and what we know as a scientific method. So let's see what the spirits, the questions that Allan Kardec asks and the answers of the spirits. So in chapter 8, the emancipation of the soul, they talk about sleep and dreams. So questions 401, does the soul rest during sleep as does the body? And then the spirits say, no, a spirit is never inactive. The bonds that tie it to the body are relaxed during slumber. And as the body does not require its presence, it travels through space and has direct relationship with other spirits. Okay? So this is very important, because if we are talking about dreams, okay, when in a psychological point of view, we are talking about everything that we have studied, the consciousness, the unconscious, the relationship between them, the ego, the self, our complexes. Try, people, to come to your mind, to remember all that we have been talking during our meetings, okay? Now we are going to put all of this together. So we are very complex beings in the creation, okay? Because we have all of this that psychology has studied and revealed to all of us during the past 200 years, probably, more or less. But then we have also, so the Spirit's book is from 1857, so 19th century. So we have a knowledge of the Spirit coming to us, at least in the West, because we know there are lots of also knowledge coming from the East part of the globe. So how do we put all of this together? So let's go step by step. So during sleep, what the spirits are telling Allan Kardec is that the spirit is never inactive. The bonds that tie it to the body are relaxed during the slumber, and as the body does not require its presence, it travels through space and has direct relationship with other spirits. So let's go on. In question 402, how can we prove a spirit's freedom during sleep? And then look what the spirits tell Allan Kardec. By dreams. When the body is asleep, a spirit enjoys the use of faculties it does not possess when awake. So the body is asleep and the spirit has the freedom, okay, and it's connected, still connected to the body, but has freedom. And here we were saying, and travels through space and has direct relationship with other spirits. So we are in the spiritual dimension. And how can we prove a spirit's freedom during sleep? This is 19th century, because now we have other ways. We have the near-death experience that are like comatose, the spirit is in a coma, more or less. We have the anomalous experiences. We have a lot of, we are analyzing different types of dreams. But let's see what the spirits tell Allan Kardec in the 19th century. So how can we prove a spirit's freedom during sleep? By dreams. And because the body is asleep and the spirits enjoy, according to the spirits, the use of faculties it does not possess when awake. So we are talking about faculties of the spirit, okay? And of course, we have to think that when we are awake, we have consciousness, the ego consciousness also. So of course, all of these faculties would be with us psychically, but they would be in the unconscious, okay? I'm just trying to start making all these connections. So the spirit remembers the past and sometimes sees the future. So the spirits are talking also not only about, as we said here, the travels through space, but actually they are talking also about, let's say, a travel through time. So a spiritual dimension where space and time are totally different, the laws of space, let's say, or we would not be as connected to space and time as we are here in this dimension, material dimension, with our body, our senses, and our egos, right? So when the body is asleep, a spirit enjoys the use of faculties it does not possess when awake. It remembers the past and sometimes sees the future. It acquires more power and is able to communicate with other spirits, either in this world or in another, in other worlds, okay? In this world or in another. You often say, I had a strange dream, a terrible dream, nothing like reality. You are mistaken in thinking this because it is often a recollection of places and things that you have seen in the past, or a premonition of those that you will see in a future existence, or even in this life at some future time. As the body is slow, the spirit tries to break free of its shackles and seeks, in the past or in the future, any means of doing so. So I think this is very interesting because when we talk, and I would love to hear Lionel about this later on in our discussion, because when we talk about the transpersonal dimension of the psyche, of what we call the collective unconscious, and we know that the laws of time and space do not apply as they apply to our conscious dimensions, right? To the conscious of the ego. So let's remember Lionel's drawing and explanation of the ocean and all of us being like a wave. So when we dive into these depths of the psyche and the unconscious, where we know now, psychology knows that as like, let's say, as deep down you go, okay, or we can also think of the iceberg, for instance, as deep down as you go, dive in this ocean, in this unconscious, we know that it's kind of the laws of space and time dissipate. So look what wonderful teachings the spirits are giving Allan Kardec in 1857. And they are saying some things that I'm quite sure that people in that century couldn't quite understand. They didn't have all the knowledge of, for instance, quantum physics that we have. So I have seen this many times, but as I was reading this to you, to plan to organize our meeting, I saw in different colors what I'm quite sure many of you that have already read the Spirit's book. So with all the knowledge that Joanna is bringing to us, you know, in this effort of integration of the psychology that we already have and know and study with Freud, Jung, and all the the great minds that try to you know, reveal all and understand our psych dynamics, the dynamics of the psyche. I think it's so beautiful and interesting to go over the Spirit's book and read again and see things that maybe we haven't seen before. So I think the spirits here are really saying to not only to Allan Kardec, because okay, the spirits that we know that were talking to Allan Kardec, and then were bringing, explaining better a lot of spiritual teachings from the past, and they were bringing to us so that we could better understand and have an expansion of consciousness. So of course they wouldn't be talking only for people in the 19th century. They would be talking to many, many decades later. So so it's saying that the spirits have powers, have qualities, we could say, that they can communicate. They can go to different times and spaces. They can talk to spirits in other worlds. So they are saying that there are many other worlds, okay, with inhabitants. And please look at Chico Xavier in the wonderful TV program that it's all in YouTube and has the English legends, that it's called Pinga Fogo, where Chico Xavier is the first spiritual leader who says that there are lives in other planets, and that in the future mankind will understand that it's not mankind, it's not the only human family, or created by the creator, by God. So I think here the spirits are also talking about faculties of the spirit, okay, that it does not possess when awake, because when awake, we have our egos and we have all the dynamics that we have been talking about here. And it's able to communicate with other spirits in this world or in another. And we often remember these experiences as dreams, and nothing like reality. And so we say a terrible dream, nothing like reality, sorry. But for our egos, of course. And the spirits say, you are mistaken in thinking this, because it is often a recollection, often, not always, okay, people, often, a recollection of places and things that you have seen in the past, or a premonition of those that you will see in a future existence, or even in this life at some future time. As the body is slow, the law of vibration, very important here. The spirit that, of course, vibrates in another wave, let's say, tries to break free of its shackles and seeks in the past or in the future any means of doing so. Okay, and these questions go on. How can we prove? So it's the same question. A spirit's freedom during sleep. Sleep frees the soul partially from the body. When you sleep, your spirit is in the state in which you will find yourself after death. I think this is great part of the answer. The spirits who are promptly freed from matter upon death are those who during their life had intelligent sleep. Then here I remember the Buddhists, for instance, a lot of people that train meditation, and they train lucid dreams, okay, the ability to be conscious in the dream, in the sleep, during the sleep. So who during their life had intelligent sleep. Such individuals meet with other spirits superior to themselves when asleep. They spend time with them, conversing and learning from them. They even work on undertakings in the spirit world that they discover to already be initiated or completed upon death. Based on this, you should see how death should not be feared, since you die daily. Literally, when we are talking about the freedom of the spirit. Okay, and we are so afraid of death, right? Our egos are so afraid of death. So here, I strongly advise you to go in the Spirit's book and read all the complete answer, because here's not the complete answer, it's only some parts. But of course, if you are free and you vibrate in another way, you vibrate according to your own development of your, your spiritual consciousness and your development and your moral and cognitive development. It's all everything together. But of course, you can be then in contact with spirits. And here in this part of the answer, I wanted you just to see that you will find yourself, the spirits say, in this state that you are able to communicate with other spirits, and in these spirits who are promptly freed from matter upon death are those who during their life here, people, their life, in our lives, had intelligent sleep, okay? So what does that mean? It means that understand that are doing what we are doing today, trying to know ourselves better, work with our shadows, understand the spiritual values and practice them and change behaviors, right? It's not only talking about things, but trying to integrate everything that we understand, that we are changing behaviors, as Joanna de Angelis always tells us. Why? Because then we vibrate, we start vibrating. Now we don't have to wait, to die to learn everything. We are trying to learn everything that we can here, and we are trying to vibrate in a different way now, working with what's still shadow in us, what's still, like, let's say, evil in us, to try to vibrate differently, to try, as Jung says, to turn on a light within our souls, or to make this light stronger, right? So we must seek, I think, to tune into the vibrations of the good spirits. I think that's what the spirits are trying to tell us. If we are always thinking bad things and always getting upset for everything, of course we have to pray and we have to try to do the best we can to help each other, and of course collectively, our societies and all that. But it's very important to understand, as we have been talking here, that we mainly are trying, and firstly, as Jung said, we have to develop, we have to individuate, we have to go through this process of individuation that we have seen previously. And we have to try to be whole, right? Because we cannot help others if we don't help ourselves to be better and to be, stronger and to vibrate better also. So I think this is a wonderful teaching that the spirits are giving Allan Kardec, and of course all of us, because they were talking to many, many eons to come, right? Not only to the people in the 19th century, that we have tried to vibrate and try to seek the help of the good spirits, okay? So let's go on. And we are studying what the spirits told about how can we prove the freedom of the spirit during sleep. So they say dreams are the recollection of what your spirit has seen during sleep. However, you must realize that you do not always dream, because you do not always remember what you have seen or everything that you have seen. Your dreams do not always reflect the action of your soul in its full development. So when we know, but all that we have already learned about psychology and about dreams, it's okay, because we have to understand that the question that Allan Kardec was asking about the freedom of the spirit during sleep, and also about what they were focusing here, the spirits. We have to understand that in the 1857, psychology was in like a baby in the first steps. And we have seen in the previous meeting that Freud's interpretation of dreams was in the 1900, right? So this is like almost 50 years previously to the interpretation of dreams. So I think they are guiding us step by step to understand that during the sleep, our spirit is partially free from the body, okay? Partially. But that we must realize that we do not always dream in the sense of recollecting what we have done during sleep, because we do not always remember what we have seen or everything that we have seen. And they keep on saying, your dreams do not always reflect the action of your soul in its full development. So I think here they are leaving the door open to all of the discoveries of psychology that Freud and Jung and all the thing, people that were studying this found out later on. They go on saying they often are merely the reflection of the confusion accompanying your departure and return, sprinkled with the hazy recollection of what you have done or what has occupied your thoughts in your waking state. So they are talking about different time from consciousness, the past, the future. They are talking about different spaces, okay? And they are talking also about something that occupies our thoughts in the waking state. So they are leaving the door open to all the discoveries of psychology that would happen in the decades that followed the Spirit's book. So how else can you explain the absurd dreams dreamt by the wisest and most foolish of human beings? Of course, right? If we are talking about, for instance, if we thought only, okay, the Spirit is a very wise man, and he's free during sleep, his spirit. So he or she are going to have, they are going to have only wonderful dreams, wise dreams, and this doesn't happen because, of course, we dream with a lot of stuff. So they are saying that many times we are dreaming and remembering things that occupied our thoughts in waking state. Of course, saying that all that we have studied about the ego, about symbols, about the way that we can understand the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. So now it's Allan Kardec summarizing, okay, and his thoughts. So he says, dreams are a consequence of the emancipation of the soul, what he understood of the Spirit's teaching. Souls have more independence by the suspension of the active and social life, and enjoy indefinite clairvoyance extending to faraway places, or those we have never seen, or even to other worlds. So I think this shows how Allan Kardec went deep in the analysis of what the spirits were telling him, because he says souls have more independence by the suspension of the active and social life. So he's saying that our egos, they wouldn't talk about egos because this is Freud, later on, many decades on, talking about that. But, or even developing, more or less starting to develop, psychoanalysis and all that. But Kardec was saying, reflecting upon the teachings of the spirits, that the soul have more independence by the suspension of the active and social life. Of course, the ego just has an altered state of consciousness and gets independent of the preoccupations of the daily life, and enjoy indefinite clairvoyance, so vision and understanding, extending to faraway places or those we have never seen, or with our physical eyes, let's say, or even to other worlds, because we are talking about the life of the spirit, okay? This emancipation is what causes the reminiscence that retraces the events from our present or prior lives, okay? So is this emancipation of the spirit what causes the reminiscence that retraces the events from our present or prior lives? So what's going on in this life has a lot of things, as Joanna de Angelis say, and the Spiritist knowledge and Spiritist psychology say that, of course, what we will remember more when our spirit is kind of emancipated from the body, right? And so this emancipation is what causes the reminiscence of what we have been doing, of events from our present or prior lives that we were involved in, and the feelings, thoughts, and memories related to them. The peculiarity of the images of what has taken place in worlds unknown to us, unknown to our egos, mixed with the present world, produces bizarre and whimsical patchworks that seem to be devoid of meaning to whom? Or to our egos, okay? So it's very, very complex. The incoherence of dreams, it's all in the same, it's Kardec's also reflections. The incoherence of dreams is further explained by gaps resulting from the incomplete recollection of what has appeared to us in our dreams. This incompleteness is similar to a narrative that has whole sentences or sections omitted, and the remaining fragments are randomly thrown together with a resulting loss of all logical meaning. And then I was thinking about Jung concepts of the symbols that we were talking about last meeting, and the way that Jung says that the symbols are images, and that are never fully understood by us, okay, by the ego. Then we can see, if we are talking about spiritual dimensions, about going very deep in this ocean, and going deep as we can, because there is where our spirits are together, So of course, it makes a lot of sense what Kardec is reflecting, also from the psychological point of view, because he says this incompletedness is similar to a narrative that has whole sentences or sections omitted, and the remaining fragments are randomly thrown together with a resulting loss of all logical meaning. So we can never fully understand these sentences, these symbols, because here we are in consciousness. It's our ego that are reflecting upon, all these symbols of the dreams, not our spirits. So in question 403, Allan Kardec asked the spirits, why do we not always remember our dreams? And then they say, sleep is only rest for the body, and the spirit always remains active. The spirit is partially free while sleeping and communicates with loved ones in both this world and other worlds. So it's a little more of what they're saying. As the body is heavy and material, it is difficult for the spirit to retain possession of the impressions received by the spirit during sleep, because those impressions were not received through the physical organs. So I think this is a very important also aspect, the connection of mind and body, of the psyche and the body. And as Jung says, that the psyche is caught like between two dimensions, the physical dimension, the body, the impulses, the senses, and the spiritual dimension. So in question 404, what should we think of the significance attributed to dreams? Dreams are not indications of the future, as is often alleged by fortune tellers. It is absurd to believe that a certain kind of dream reveals the occurrence of a specific event. However, they are indications in the sense that they present images which are real for the spirit, though they may have nothing to do with its present physical life. In many cases, dreams are a memory and sometimes an intuition of the future, if permitted by God, or the vision of something that is taking place in some other place to which the soul has traveled. Okay, so we are talking here about also about paranormal experiences, abilities of the psyche, right? But the spirits tell that it's all connected to the spirit, to abilities and capacities of the spirit. So he goes on in the same question. Have you not heard of the many instances proving that individuals may appear to friends and family in dreams, warning them of what is happening to them? What are apparitions if not the soul or spirit of individuals who are communicating with you? When you are certain that what you saw has actually taken place, is it not proof that it was not a fragment of your imagination, especially if what you saw was something that you had not thought of when you were awake? So here, I'll just give you an example to make it a little more clear that happened to me, of course, synchronistically, because I think when we are in this realm of the spirit, synchronicity, we know that happens more often. I was coming back home the past week and walking in the streets that I usually don't do that, okay? Coming home walking. And then a car, just blew the horn and called me Anahy. Okay, it was a friend that I haven't seen for, many, many months. And we stopped for lunch together. And she was really wanted to talk to me. Oh, you as a Jungian and, and having all this knowledge about Spiritist knowledge and reading all these books. I wanted to tell you a dream that I have and a situation in my family. And then she told me, she was kind of, really amazed, kind of scared, like it was numinous experience, this dream, Lionel and everybody, because she had had a dream with her deceased grandfather, and he was looking very upset, I wouldn't say, but sad, worried, okay, the expression that she describes. And he was sitting in the family room where all the family would used to get together when he was alive. He has been deceased for many years, she told me. But with this face word, and then he woke up and everybody was trying to cheer him up. There were a lot of her relatives. And then, but they couldn't. He was very worried and upset. And then he just gets up and goes to one of his sons, her uncle, bedrooms, and lies there in his bedroom, the bedroom of the uncle. And so she wakes up. This dreams repeats itself twice in a period of like 2 weeks. And then, okay, when the second time she calls, aunts and uncles and say, oh, but not the uncle, the bedroom where the grandfather laid down. And she said, oh, that happens, talks about the dream, and they get very worried because the daughter of this uncle, so her cousin, was having a baby in Australia. Okay, this happened like 2 months ago. And they thought that the grandfather was trying to communicate that something would happen to the baby. And they got really worried about that. But what happens when the second dream repeats itself? 1 week later, this uncle, where the grandfather lay down in the bed, went to bed. He was okay. He was, you know, he's not even 60 years old, and he was healthy and okay. And he went to bed, lay down to bed to sleep with his wife. And then they turn off the lights, and the wife, her aunt, only heard his last breath. The guy died. Okay. And when she talked to me about that, she said, oh, so I think my grandfather was really sad and worried because he knew his son was going to die pretty soon. But she had not connected that the grandfather had gone to the bedroom in the past where her uncle used to sleep. Okay. So we have a lot of symbols, but we have also direct communication of the spirits to the family, actually, to her, right? So this is just an example. We can talk more about that if we have time. So have you not heard? Let's go back to the question. What should we think of the significance attributed to dreams? Have you not heard of the many instances proving that individuals may appear to friends and family in dreams, warning them of what is happening to them? What are apparitions, if not soul or spirits of individuals who are communicating with you when you are certain that what you saw has actually taken place? Is it not proof that it was not a fragment of your imagination, especially if what you saw was something that you had not thought of when you were awake? So in question 405, we often see things in dreams that appear to be premonitions, but they do not come to fruition. What is the reason for this? So this is Allan Kardec talking to the spirits in the 19th century. I think there are a lot of questions about premonitory dreams and things like that. So the spirit may experience these things while the body does not. The spirit sees what it wishes to see because it goes out looking for it. During sleep, the spirit is always more or less under the influence of matter. So this is like a confusional factor, right, Lionel? Because we have the psychology, we have the personal unconscious, and we have so the psyche with all this complexity, and we have the transpersonal dimension, the spirits getting together, and information that it's coming from there, and the abilities, more or less, depending in the evolution of the spirit, to remember that, and more what this spirit is looking for. So we have a lot of complexities here to think about. So the question goes on. Consequently, it is never completely free from human ideas, and the objects of its waking thoughts may conjure up what it desires or fears, producing an effect of the imagination. So see the complexity. So the spirit is not, while here in the body and in this state of evolution of consciousness, it is never completely free from human ideas, and the objects of its waking thoughts may conjure up what it desires or fears, producing an effect of the imagination. When the mind is preoccupied with an idea, it is very quick to connect everything it sees to that idea. And remember that Joanna is bringing to us that about the reincarnation and about the atavisms that we say about past memories of our incarnations, past incarnations, that stay in our subtle body, and that in some way they will be brought to light in this life, so that we can deal with them again, try to understand better what we have not understood in other lives. So in question 406, When we see living persons whom we know quite well doing things in dreams that they would never dare do in reality, is it a mere effect of the imagination? Could be, right? When we talk about our complexes, we have been talking about that last meeting. Then the Spirit says that they would never dare. How do you know? I like this way the spirits talk sometimes. Their spirit may visit yours as yours may visit theirs, and you do not always know what they may be thinking. Besides, in dreams, you often apply to individuals you know, and according to your own desires, what took place or is taking place in other existences. So it's also very complex because, okay, we have the personal unconscious, we have our complexes, and we know we can project in this, figures that also belong to our psychic world, our inner world, our, for instance, father, mother, husbands, wives, sons, daughters. They also represent, let's say, characters in our dreams. But the spirits are saying, and if we are thinking that some of these encounters can have also spiritual dimensions, then we cannot judge, like Allan Kardec was asking, right? Because he was trying to ask questions that would interest everyone, okay, and would help this development of our consciousness. So he talks, okay, they are doing things in my dreams that they wouldn't do in a waking state. But then the Spirit said that they would never dare. How do you know? We don't know about even ourselves. How can we talk about, even our father, mother, son, and daughter? We don't know. I only know that I don't know anything, right? Or something like that. So let's be cautious and try to understand, ourselves in the different dimensions, in all our own complexity and others' complexity too. Besides, in dreams, they say you often apply to individuals you know and according to your own desires. So I think here the spirits are leaving the door open also to all the understanding of psychology that would follow later on, right? And what took place or is taking place in other existence also. So in question 407, is complete sleep necessary for the emancipation of the spirit? And then they say something really cool, if we are going to think that it's 19th century. No, the spirit recovers its freedom as soon as the senses become drowsy. It takes advantage of every moment of bodily rest to be free. The second that the body begins to get weary, the spirit detaches from the body. The weaker the bodily state, the freer the spirit. This is why dozing or a mere dulling of the senses often presents the same images as dreamings. Then, Lionel, when we're talking about psychedelics and things like that, they were talking also about that in the 19th century, the spirits to Allan Kardec, because they're saying that sleep is not necessary. Only altered states of consciousness, we can translate this answer, right? So question 409, when not yet half asleep and with our eyes closed, we often see distinct images and highly detailed figures. Is this a product of our imagination or an actual effect of vision? Then the spirits say the body being numb, the spirit tries to break free from its shackles. It is transported and sees, and if the sleep were deeper, the vision would be a dream. Okay, so different stages of imagination, of visual effects, of dreams, different stages of consciousness. And question 410, sometimes when asleep or half asleep, We have ideas that seem to be excellent, but despite every effort we make to recall them, these ideas are wiped from our memory upon waking. From where do these ideas originate? Then the Spirit says they are the consequence of the freedom of the Spirit, who frees itself from the body and enjoys the use of other faculties when free. They are often advice given to you by other spirits. Often, not always, okay? But see that they are saying that it's also an ability of the spirit by itself or with the help of other spirits, and of enjoying these faculties when free. And then they go on saying, because Kardec in the same question asks, what is the purpose of such ideas and advice, since we forget them anyway? And they say those ideas often belong to the spirit world rather than the physical world. However, though the body may forget them, the spirit does not, and the idea recurs to it at the right moment when awake, as a sudden inspiration. Okay? So now Joanna de Angelis, we are almost in the end. So Joanna de Angelis in Life, Challenges and Solutions. In the chapter 7, when she talks about discovering the unconscious, let's see what she tells us about all this. So she says that one can find all the experiences of the individual stored up in the unconscious from his or her first expressions across the periods of development and evolution, not only in this life, also the evolution and development of the spirit, and up to the moment of lucidity of logical thought in which he or she now lives, with the goal of attaining the highest level, cosmic thought. We are not there yet. We are trying to, go toward it. So she said that for Sigmund Freud, as well as for Carl Jung, the unconscious only expresses itself by means of symbols, and using the delicate mechanisms of dreams and active imagination, these symbols can and should be sought out in order to be rightly interpreted, so that their messages may be understood. Dreams offer content that needs to be interpreted to facilitate the individual's development by means of active imagination, bearing in mind that it's not fiction in the conventional sense, but a modality of creative thought. It is possible to enter the framework of the registers and reservoirs of the unconscious, opening its gates for a balanced release that will contribute greatly to the healthy conduct of the individual, enabling him or her to live a stable life or a more stable life. We would like to take the liberty, says Joanna, to add, however, that through concentration, prayer, and meditation, as well as during some mediumistic trances, the unconscious can find additional means to facilitate the release of various feelings that lie within it, giving rise to the anemic phenomena, so carefully studied by the esteemed codifier of Spiritism, Allan Kardec, one of the identifiers of the archives of the unconscious, although under a different label, okay? And when she talks about giving rise to anemic phenomena, she's talking about psychic phenomena produced by the incarnate spirit itself, without the intervention of other spirits. So like telepathy that Jung said that we should, all extrasensory perception and phenomena that Jung says that we should, psychiatry and psychology study more in the future. So telekinesis, psychometry, and among others, okay? So Joanna says that Freud and Jung assert that formidable forces are at play in that in that extraordinary ocean, the unconscious, sometimes for and sometimes against the individual, who must decipher all of these mysteries in order to achieve both inner and outer self-realization. The unconscious contains the myths, fantasies, legends, and superstitions of all peoples of the past and present. And in its deepest corners, I think this is beautiful, the way she says, in its deepest corners, parallel personalities are born or sleep, personalities that incorporate themselves into the individual's existence, generating conflicts and neurotic disorders. I think here Joanna is talking also about our complexes, okay? However, according to them, according to Freud and Jung, the objective of interpreting such messages is not to immediately resolve neurotic disorders, but to rightly utilize their forces, which bear energies for growth, elevation, knowledge, and liberation. And she goes on, the big challenge for human existence lies in the ability to explore that unknown world, the unconscious, and take from it all the potential that may produce happiness and self-realization. Individuals usually go through life in an almost sleep-like state, without any awareness of what is going on around them regarding events or their dynamics. They rarely take time to reflect, to ponder the objectives and needs of life per se. Everything happens to them automatically, fortuitously, affected as they are by the predominant physiological urges, even during episodes of a psychological nature. So I think this is very important. It's one of the reasons that we still have wars nowadays, for instance, that we still have all these conflicts going on. Consequently, Joanna says, they live unconsciously, far removed from reality, scattered, peeling up conflicts and letting themselves be controlled by their dominant instincts. So human existence, she says, is an invaluable learning experience that must not be wasted or lived utopically, as if it were a trip to Fantasyland, where everything has its place in a timeless, mechanical way, devoid of sense or reason. The march of the evolutionary process is upward, and each day individuals must start up creative and enlightening experiences that will expand their field of development, leading them toward their cosmic destiny, complete freedom, plenitude. While in the body, they will suffer the positive or negative consequences of their acts, while in the body, while we still have to reincarnate, which are the building blocks of their future. That is why they must live consciously, awake to the reality of living. It is in the unconscious that we find the presence of the spirit, as Allan Kardec is saying and codifying, the spirit's knowledge. So it is in the unconscious that we find the presence of the spirit in the folds of the inner being, impregnated with memories that do not reach the current conscious, and yet affect behavior indirectly, causing disquieting and unfamiliar states within the structure of the ego. Self-discovery enables individuals to grasp the need for progress, while at the same time it disarticulates the difficulties that have been formed by negative past life experiences. So we need very much what we are doing here today, people, and the days after this, right? Doing as Joanna, Chico Xavier, Allan Kardec, and many, many others, Jung, Freud did previously to us, this search for ourselves, for the self-discovery that enables us to grasp the need for progress, while at the same time disarticulating the difficulties that have been formed by negative past life experiences. Only upon beginning to experience and understand one's inner reality, says Joanna, engaging in self-discovery and remaining awake to the activity of logical and conscious thought, are the damaging effects of the past released and new guidelines for the future conduct set forth. Individuals are manifestation of the divine thought, which created them for dynamic self-realization. Consequently, they must stop ignoring their inner world, their unconscious, and dive into the depths of themselves, embracing self-discovery without traumas or shocks, anxieties or disturbances, in a process known as individuation. And now I'm just going to remind you of Jung's idea of individuation that we have seen previously, as a movement towards making of an undivided and differentiated individual with a psychic center focus on the self. And as Joanna says, the self is the spirit, so the need of evolution in the spirit. In a non-linear process of progressive awareness of the unconscious, it's not linear, it goes back and forth, which points to a kind of realization of the archetype of the self, that is the inauguration of a complete human being, integrating apparently irreconcilable tendencies. For Jung, the goal is not to be perfect, but to be whole, and building an integral personality. So in Jung's words, the development of personality, it's a question of saying yes to oneself, of considering oneself as the most important of tasks, of being aware of everything one does, keeping oneself constantly in front of one's eyes in all our doubtful aspects. So the goal, Jung says, is not to overcome our personal psychology, to become perfect, but to become familiar with it. Thus, individuation includes a growing knowledge of one's unique psychological reality, including personal strengths and limitations, and at the same time, a deep appreciation of humanity in general. So I would say and include now what Joanna and the spirits tell Allan Kardec in Jung's approach, okay, that to become familiar with us, but also to become familiar as much as we can through meditation, for instance, as Joanna says, to the development of our mediumistic capacities, right? To paying attention to our intuitions, our dreams, to trying to analyze in our dreams in these different layers, right? Because then we become familiar with our unique inner reality, but not only our soul's reality, but also, as much as we can, our spirit reality. Okay, so I will stop sharing. This brings a lot of questions, I know that. And I have a lot of examples. I have Chico Xavier examples. I gave you only the example of my friend's dream, but we want to talk, and we want to also to listen what Professor Korber has, thoughts about this. And if we don't finish, I think this is so important, because as Jungians, we say it's the cornerstone. Dreams are the cornerstone of Jung depth psychology. So we can start next class with the examples of Chico Xavier's dreams, and also Jung's dreams with his father, for instance. But let's listen to you, Lionel.
Well, there's so much information there, it's hard to know where to begin. It's just like a fire hose of information.
Sorry.
trying to drink from a fire hose. I mean, there are some important differences between what we heard and what Jung would say. For example, dreams, Chico says that dreams can be absurd. Jung would say dreams are never absurd. What looks like an absurdity is simply a symbolic meaning. So I thought that was an important difference. Also, he seems to imply that events that are going on in dreams are literally happening in other worlds or other dimensions. But from Jung's point of view, that they are symbolic of what's going on. They can't be taken literally. He also seems to say that dreams can be incoherent. That it's the same problem. They're not incoherent. They're difficult to understand because they're symbolic. This is written, you know, several generations before Jung. So I think it's an attempt to talk about dreams without having a sort of depth psychological point of view. And then the material about dreams and the future was confusing because initially he says we don't dream about the future, and then he says we do dream about the future, that God willing, or something like that. Jung is very clear that we can have dreams that do talk about the future. I don't know if you want me to go on because I made a lot of notes, but this would take a long time to unpack. I could go on with more problems, but
I think we should go on probably next meeting, okay? Because this is very important. Rarely, when we are talking about with people that have a lot of understanding about spiritist knowledge, we go as deep, Lionel. And I think we should that because Kardec says, and also the spirits tell Kardec, that as our consciousness are evolving, so it's an open knowledge, what they say, it's not closed one that cannot be changed. And I agree with you, they were trying to tell Kardec something and in a language, and sometimes they would it would have a paradox, okay, as you said, a contradiction, that they cannot dream about the future because we know that in the 19th century there are a lot of people pretending to connect to the spirits when they were not.
yeah.
So I think this was one way to say all the fortune tellers, because when he talks about that, when he talks about fortune, they talk about fortune tellers, because I think there were a lot of charlatans or things like that in the 19th century. But of course, they say we are talking about the transpersonal dimension, we're talking about a dimension where time and space don't work in this dimension that we are in. So I think, Lana, that we should talk, and that it's your point of view is very important, so we can go further in this knowledge, because as you say, Jung kind of inaugurates, if we could say, it opens the time of death psychology. And even in among spiritists, even Joanna de Angelis is questioned a lot, because she tries to bring, she's trying to integrate all the knowledge of the psychologists, and psychologists that we have developed the past decades and century, we could say more than a century, with the spiritist knowledge. So I think it's very, very important that we go deeper in that. And I'm writing down what you said. So I also thought I saw this contradiction about the future, for instance, and I understood that it's because they were talking to people in the 19th century, as you understood also. And I wanted very much, and we are not going to have time today, so I think we should go to a third meeting, not only maybe about dreams, but let's see how it goes on. Maybe we can put together about myths, as Joanna de Angelis says, and the archetypes. But she said, they say that events can be literally happening to the spirit. And you say that Jung says that events are not are symbolic in the dreams, they are not literally happening. So I want very much to bring the example that it's in this book, Between Heaven and Earth, by Chico Xavier, that we can further go into this example, okay? And also about the incoherence, it's one of the examples. But this incoherence, I understand that the spirits are telling Kardec, it's as you, I think, also understood, that it's of the ego. The ego think it's a nightmare, that it's not coherent, can't find an understanding. But I agree with you. I think the spirits are in an attempt, without depth psychology, to help people to think about dreams in a different way. Should you go on further with your
I wonder if we could ask other people what their impression was.
Okay,
Would that be okay?
let's go then. Who would like to? Andres, go ahead.
Yes, I also felt there was a lot of information, very, very much, a lot. And also it was kind of like, talking against each other. Like one way says this, the other way says that. But maybe everybody here also on site has experiences where dreams do come true. So my life has been like this, actually permanently from the age I can remember, 3 years old, that the things I dream are literally coming through, like not at the same time, but years later. And they kind of seem to be repeating themselves in my mind over and over again. And I was very young when I realized that a dream, if you don't remember them in the next few minutes or hours when you wake up, it's a dream. And if you remember them, and you remember them all day, it is actually occurring something which actually will happen or that has happened. And I must honestly say, if I say something very quickly, which I remember, and then all of a sudden it's gone, I know it was a dream. It has nothing to do with reality. But I had an incident where I basically was mid-FAB in Brazil, and there was an incident where I had an accident. And then I had a scene with a child on a table at that same accident. And then I had to get out of the car and put money in a machine at 12 at night. And I remember it literally like it has already happened. And I remember even the time I dreamt it. And it was horrifying because I remember it at the time, it was horrifying. And what triggered the memory was actually the fear I had in the dream. So that was very, very interesting. So yes, dreams do come true, if I may say.
Lionel, would you like to comment on that?
Well, no, only to agree. We have prospective dreams, prophetic dreams. They're well known.
Anyone? Should we go on? We have 5 more minutes. Just to tell you that we are certainly going to a third meeting about that, because I think there is a lot to unpack. And I'm sorry about, I always try to summarize, but it's so complex, right? Let's see what Gabriele. Hi, Gabriele, go on.
Hello, thanks very much for all this. And it's a lot of material. And yeah, so I'm a beginner, so I'll say something. Well, as understood today, our spirit is in our unconscious, and our unconscious is achievable one of the ways by our dreams. Make sense of what I'm saying? Yeah.
Our unconscious, I didn't understand the second part.
So our unconscious, we can know a little bit about our unconscious through our dreams. Yeah. And you were saying to meditate, or through who is training or medium, and or to be relaxed. Yeah, but this is something so important, and we don't study this so much. But I would like to make a point, and I don't know if you can help me with that, because I was watching one video of Haroldo Dias Dutra, that's completely different, but he was saying to us to be apart from our neuroses or depression and anxiety, to have the conscious apart from our fears or sentiments, and try not to judge, but only to observe. Of course, this is a bit different because we are awakened, but there is a connection between a conscious that observes ourselves while we're awakened, observe the ego, and try to be more aware of our points, and what we're talking here are completely different. Yeah, would you understand?
Okay, more or less, but I mean, Lana, I think maybe Haroldo was talking about what we call mindfulness meditation, to be aware of the moment and to pay attention, but then it's the ego that it's also doing the...
Yeah, she might have been talking about what we call the observing ego, the capacity to
Yeah.
watch yourself and be aware of what you're doing and be self-reflexive and so on. Yeah.
This is a capacity of a condition of the ego, and to be present in the now. Is that what you are asking?
Yeah, because so the idea here is that we can feel more ourselves, ourself, and our spirit, as we spiritists say, through our dreams. That's the point that we're trying to discuss here.
Yeah, that's it. But I think also maybe we could think that, for instance, in a mindfulness technique, in meditation, where you just want to calm the mind, right? Do not be so anxious, and to detach a little bit of the day by day routine, you know, about your daily routine and things like that. That's one technique that we know in as medical people, that it's okay, that it helps to calm down, helps to you know, not be so anxious. But and the ego is working on that.
Okay.
But what I think Joanna de Angelis is saying when she's talking about prayer, meditation, mediumistic trance, it's different. It's an altered state of consciousness, where not only you calm down, let's say, not only you detach yourself from daily life, but as Lana was saying, the ego is observing, but observing the inner life, is actually looking for this connection to the self, to intuitions, paying attention in dreams. So it would be, I think, what I understood, maybe that Haroldo was telling you, it's a different task, let's say, for the ego, and different objectives. One is to calm down, is to control anxieties, things like that, burnout stuff and things. But the other is actually calming down, in a sense of developing an inner vision and an inner, you know, ego self-access. So working on that, on this axis, I would say, analyzing dreams and things like that. Maybe people want to leave. I can stay a little bit longer because we have two more questions. I haven't seen who raised the hand first, Denise or Sylvia?
It's Denise now.
Denise? I
Denise,
think
you're mute.
quickly, maybe we, yeah.
Eu acho que foi a Sylvia. I think it was Sylvia. She handed before.
Okay, go ahead, Sylvia.
It doesn't matter, you could have said it. No, I was just thinking that amazing enough, I just before the meeting, I was actually studying this text from the Spirit's book, and I was just studying and reading it. I think one of the points that Lionel made about that we don't always understand and everything, because I think what the Spirits teach us that as spirits, we are freed from this body as soon as we can. And we have experience in the spiritual world and other worlds, and spiritually. So we go much deeper. But sometimes also other things, we know that when the person is very worried about something, their spirit will be in their body, and they'll be just with the worry of the day or the problem they have. I think one of the problems that sometimes is not very coherent or something is just, I think, is to do with the fact that even though we free ourselves as spirit, our spirit free itself from the body, is not totally disconnected. I think he does talk about that, because we cannot be as free as we could. So sometimes the body, once we come, it doesn't, he does talk about, and you did mention that the body will not remember, but the spirit will remember. So and you're probably going to talk about some of the dreams in André Luiz, sorry, which in many ways explains quite a lot of those things, isn't it? Like the dream the girl has is a device that is being given by her grandmother, and she said, don't worry about what people say. It's like a snake and things. So you have all those symbols coming back. They don't quite, it's as coherent as it could be. But the message that she says, go on with your life. Don't worry about what the people say. And I think, maybe next time that dream you can explain, because this is really good. And I think in a way it would clear quite some of the things that Lionel felt.
Sylvia, do you remember the name of the book? Because maybe some people have the book and want to read for next meeting.
Gosh, I'm not sure if it's Missionary Light.
Because the one that if people have, it's the one that I was going to tell you about, and I'll tell next meeting, is Beyond the Dream, the name of the chapter, and it's chapter 15 of Between Heaven and Earth.
Yes, I have this in Portuguese. I have my books in Portuguese. I'll find out. I'm not sure if it's Missionaries of Light or Obreiros da Vida Eterna, which would be the next one. But I'll find out, and I'll put for everybody.
Okay. If you can send to Fabrício, then he can put in the WhatsApp group also, if people want to read. Thank you, Sylvia.
Okay, thank you.
And Denise, 1 minute.
Okay, hello. I'd like just to make more exciting and more tense the thinking about today. It was really full of experiences, but about religion. I think we have a heritage about dreams in religions, in beliefs, about in the Judaism, in the Christianism, when they did things, probably right things, because they got a dream. It's the way that they got connections with the creator. So just homework for next class, thinking about that. I think it would be interested. I'm interested about, as you know, I live in an Islamic country, and I try to respect, but there are a lot of things about collective unconscious in this point of view.
Thank you, Denise. And I already asked Lionel if he can be with us next meeting. I'm sure he's an expert about dreams with archetypal images, as you are saying, dreams and different religions, right, Lionel? I'm not sure you're going to be able to be with us.
On the 29th. On the 29th. Yes, I'll be there.
Yes, great. So then we can have Lionel talking to us about this kind of dreams in different religions, right? With that come with information, prophetic dreams and things like that. Well, so thank you so much. Sorry?
Maybe we could ask members of this group to talk about their own dreams if they're short.
I wanted today that we, but when I started trying to summarize, and you saw that it's kind of difficult, all this information for us to discuss, it gave me a really hard time. So let's do, if we're going to the third meeting, then Denise and Silvia and everybody else, maybe Anne, Marcia, if you could bring examples of this kind of, or your own dreams, okay? And then we can have more time. Then we will start with the examples by Chico Xavier, because there are a lot of people that don't know, haven't ever read, and discuss more this incoherence things that the spirits tell Allan Kardec, because the effect of coming and leaving the body, coming and going out of the body, and this problem of how the psyche, the consciousness remembers what has been going on, and we can exchange ideas about that. Is that okay for everyone?
Yes. Well,
So,
also,
thank you.
sorry, very brief, very quickly. Also, there is a lot of dreams. I used to have lots of them. That you go to work in the spiritual world. I had lots of dreams of going to work and doing things. And one of the dreams, actually, I had written here, it was an extremely powerful dream that I had in working. I was going to work with someone. And I would like to share next week this, because it was a powerful dream of going to work in the spiritual world.
Okay, great, great. Like Andres brought to us, and I think the spirits really wanted that, for us to question, right? The spiritist knowledge is not closed, as I said, it's open, and it's a way, a path. Yeah.
I think we dream those things because they already happened. So see, I have a very strong knowing on that everything which happens to us in this life has already happened. So the spirit already knows long before we're born. So it is just recording it, re-recording it. We don't really supposed to know it, but in our dreams it comes through again. It's because it's deeply buried in ourselves. That's what I believe.
We have all this metaverse stuff, different dimensions and universe that they didn't have, incarnated people didn't have in the 19th century. So let's go to work, because I think they're asking us, and Joanna is asking us to go to work and put our brains to work, and minds and hearts. So thank you very much, because it's wonderful to have all of you here, and we can exchange and look to each other. This class is very special, this class of people, let's say, of students of the spirits. And we'll see each other in 2 weeks' time.
Yes, and I had a dream with you, actually, and part of the group about a week ago. And anyway, for another day. But I had a dream with you and some of the people in the group.
So maybe we are meeting.
I would like to talk about that too, but the next time.
Okay.
Go away from Crow.
Okay, so see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Take care.